society confuses confidence with competence, visibility with success. So I am the founder of the She Suite Club.
Amanda Blesing empowers ambitious women to step up, speak out, and lead with confidence.
My goal was to halve their effort and double their impact. I noticed that in one particular instance, it was really quite shocking. 10 men responded and only one woman to this call for papers. Allow the sensations to actually go through your body and brain.
A mentor, author, and keynote speaker, she transforms feminine ambition into boardroom success.
Amanda Blesing is an executive trainer, speaker, and author.
To a modern industrial revolution. Here to tell us more about our new normal is speaker, author, and coach Amanda Blesing.
Women in particular get caught up in doing work that's expected but not promotable. It is never too early and it is never too late. So the most common mistakes I see on LinkedIn in particular would be we're not consistent. 3 leadership myths that perhaps typically hold women back. One that we need to work hard, develop their personal and professional brand. I think you need a sounding board.
Where big dreams meet bold action. Where we share real stories, actionable insights, and the inspiration needed to transform your ideas into businesses. Are you ready to turn your ideas into success and be an inspiration to others? Join Inspirepreneur.
So I am the founder of the She Suite Club. I'm a whole heap like a leadership coach, but I just work with women, and I could probably talk with a mouthful of marbles underwater about women and career and gender equity. It's something I'm really passionate about. And often women will reach out to me, they've had that aha moment where they go, oh my gosh, I think I've spent all my career making other people look good, but I haven't done the same for myself. And so that's what I do. I teach a strategic and powerful approach to navigating this next phase into the C-suite of your career. And my goal is to halve their effort and double their impact, particularly because I think there's a lot of well-meaning poor advice out there for women. So my own journey came through the association sector, peak bodies, professional associations, and I'm quite passionate about that sector, helping professionals be more professional. And throughout my career, we gave people opportunities to showcase that. So my own career came through the ranks of the peak body sector, and where I ended up as CEO of SOCAP Australia. But I'd had a 20-year career in the sector, and the peak body sector is something I can really believe in. It's where you help professionals be more professional, represent a particular sector or an industry, and help people leverage their careers outside of their workplaces. We provide opportunities for people to showcase their talents, develop their expertise, develop positioning, so they can advance their careers via their peak body. And it's very, very rewarding. So that was something that I truly believed in. But something happened for myself after I'd been working in the sector for some time, and I would call for papers, and I noticed that in one particular instance, it was really quite shocking. 10 men responded and only one woman to this call for papers for our conference. And then I would call for award nominations, and the women in this particular sector, which was highly female dominated, were running around nominating their junior staff, which was the right thing to do and great for our peak body. But then they were worn out, perhaps ran out of confidence, ran out of steam. Maybe that was code for imposter syndrome, and they just didn't nominate themselves. What they didn't know was that some of their male peers were in actual fact getting the PR department or the comms team to write their nominations. So it was always a bit of a challenge to get the women in this sector, who were great and leaders in their field, to step up into those visibility opportunities, those thought leadership opportunities, and positioning themselves as leaders and experts. So that's where I saw the opportunity, and I thought, wow, I'm looking for my next challenge. I really want to help these women take advantage and develop this thought leadership and positioning and position themselves for boards, awards, accolades, and develop their personal and professional brands. And that was what started my journey. It's really interesting when you start your own business. What you lose is the structure around your day. You know, when you go to the office and you've got a fabulous structure, you turn up, there's meetings scheduled for you, there's sort of work priorities scheduled, and it sort of happens organically. Even if you turn up on a bad day, there's things to do. When you set your own business up, that structure is not there. It's very easy to have a whole day of nothing to do and succeed at that. So having a whole day with nothing scheduled is not necessarily the best thing. And what I really noticed about 6 months into my journey, that gratitude journaling became my friend. And I found it such a powerful motivator and a powerful driver for my own success. And I just created a habit of daily gratitude practice, daily gratitude meditating. And that was the thing that really helped me create the mindset and sustain the mindset that it takes to keep your foot on the accelerator and follow your dream, pursue your passion, create the business or the practice that you want to practice. Without that gratitude journaling, I would not be here. It is the thing that sustained me when I was not sure in that first year whether my business would be a success. Look, I love gratitude journaling for so many reasons, and I love it from a perspective of motivating you to keep going in your day and to see the good. I think our brains have a little bit of a bias towards seeing the negative, and so sometimes that's not exactly helpful when you are the engine room and the execution room and operations in your business. So in terms of gratitude journaling, just every morning find 5 things to feel grateful for. And then instead of just noting that, writing it down quickly, allow the sensations of gratitude, thankfulness, recognizing the win for what it is, recognizing the progress. Allow the sensations to actually go through your body and brain, sense and feel the sensation of what it is to feel gratitude in the moment. That is the clinch for me. And I highly recommend this for my clients. I recommend it for myself. I recommend it to my family and friends. But it's not just writing the good things down, it's actually allowing the sensations of gratitude to wash through your body and brain. And that is what makes the magic happen. There's something that can really help as well. Something I find that sometimes my clients need this advice. So in the evening, list down the things you achieved for the day. Sometimes we're so wallowing in our to-do list that we haven't ticked everything off, and we don't feel like we've made progress in our big goals, or we didn't win the promotion or the pay rise, but it is progress. And I think I like listing down the wins at the end of the day, because I find that, once again, incredibly rewarding and motivating. Hey, personal branding is really funny, isn't it? Some people think that it's a bit lightweight, that it's just about, dressing nicely and showing up with a good handbag. And that is an element of personal branding, but it is so much more than that, so much more. One of my teachings is build your brand on substance. Then it needs to be the whole package. You need to show up like you mean business. You need to take up space. You need to have the confidence, the mojo, the energy, as well as the credibility and the credentials. Remember, no one promotes the worn out, exhausted, flustered looking executive who might be doing all the work up the back of the office. We promote the person who looks confident after they've done the work. They've got the whole package together. I think that build your brand on substance also comes back to your credibility and authority as well. You need to learn how to own the room, take up space. Remember, it's not what you know, it's not even who you know, it's who knows what you know and how that adds value. And how that adds value, that's the clincher. Because when other people are going out and selling your value and understand what you've delivered and how you delivered and what the value you added was, it makes it so much, the opportunities for you come more easily. Have I felt like giving up? Several times. Look, I love what I do. Truly, I have found my passion. I did not realise that, I did not realise that this was the work that I had been building up towards all my career until I almost fell into it. I did not know I wanted to write 2 books, and now I'm almost on my 3rd. It sort of just evolved. The first one, not so much, that was hard work. It was part of a business program. But the second, and now the 3rd, which is in the pipeline, sort of wrote themselves almost. They had to be written because there was a gap in the thought leadership space about what was happening for women. So in terms of losing my mojo and how I get my mojo back, I have a coach. If I am going to be helping more women, if I am going to be helping women step into leadership roles, lead and succeed in the C-suite, then I need to be at the top of my game. That means I need to be supported, and I have a coach. So there was a time, maybe 12 months ago, where I was feeling blue. I had lost my way. I'd lost my sense of purpose. I lost my vision for my business. And also, what was interesting at the same time is I had put my own coaching on the back burner. I had told my coach, I don't need coaching for a little while. I need to take a break. So as immediately after a few months, I was like, I need to go back to my coach. I went back to my coach, and having that sounding board and someone to bounce ideas off and someone to cheer me up when things weren't going so well, or when I got rejected, or when a project took longer than I expected. It's really good. If you're a coach, or you're a small business owner operator, or even a large business owner operator, you need to be coached yourself. I think that women are typically working in masculine dominated industries. And when it comes to leadership is masculine dominated. Here in Australia, I think it's 80% of leadership roles are still held by men across sectors. Yes, there are some sectors that are more female dominated, but in general, when we average it all out, 80% of leadership roles are still held by men. So leadership is masculine dominated. When you don't feel like you really fit, when you don't feel you see yourself represented, when you don't feel like people are leading like you are, when you feel like the odd one out, I think you need a sounding board. I think you need someone to help you see the good, reflect back to you what you are doing well, and maybe coach you around some of the things where you need to shift your mindset and improve, rather than be the victim. I don't necessarily think women need more coaching. I think it's just incredibly helpful for anyone, but I think because of the environment that many women find themselves in, coaching is a really incredible and powerful option. Yes, I think, speaking as a coach, I think all women should have a coach. I think men should have one too, but I think it really helps women, particularly in masculine dominated environments. I remember a role that I went for. It was very interesting. It was in sales and business development in an event management company, and I turned up for the interview, and the interview was a man. It was a masculine dominated industry. The interviewer was a man, and he was the CEO of the company. He leaned back in his chair and he put his cowboy boots on the table, and he was leaning back with his arms behind his head with his boots on the table to conduct the job interview. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? I didn't interview particularly well because I was so intimidated by his very casual approach to the interview, when I was expecting something rather more professional. I did not get the role, but suffice to say, I did not want it either. If I had landed the role, I would have said no, because it was not where I would flourish. The culture of the organisation was not where I would flourish. I'd experienced previously a couple of roles where I was working in Papua New Guinea. I had taken a 3-year break from my professional career, and I went up to Papua New Guinea for adventures, and I took the roles I could get up there. And I quickly learned that if the culture is not right, then you are not going to succeed. And so, this role, when I came back to Australia, and a really unusual interview, if I had landed the role, I would have said no. I could probably talk for that for so much. Us having a seat at the table is really important. We need women to have a seat at the table. Women want a seat at the table. Business, society needs women to have a seat at the table. Sometimes we get a seat at the table and we're a little uncertain as to our welcome. Sometimes we are given signals that, we're invited to the table, but then no one listens to us when we're there. Sometimes we are spoken over. Sometimes our ideas and opinions are co-opted or borrowed, or sometimes we even have our own expertise explained back to us as though we don't know what we're talking about. And so someone thinks to explain it in better ways, in language that suits them better, not us. So I think that we want a seat at the table and we step up to the table frequently. And then the signals are mixed. We're not always made to feel welcome. So I think that's why some women hesitate to take their seat at the table, to truly lean in and own their seat at the table, have their voice at the table, because it's not always easy. And I think you have to have a big sense of purpose or a big drive or a big sense of why to get over that. Oh, yes. So when your voice is not heard at the table, when you feel like repeatedly you are suggesting ideas and no one listens, or you say an idea and then someone else says it louder and they get recognised. There's some techniques that I teach my clients, and one of them, it's really widely known, and in fact it was popularised or made famous by a female politician here in Australia, Julie Bishop, former opposition leader. And she was known to form coalitions. So what does that mean? She talks about it openly because she was one of 3 women at the time in Parliament in her party. And so she talks about how she and her female peers used to, not collude, that's not the right word, but get together before meetings and just make sure to reinforce each other's opinions. Make sure that their voice was heard. So if Julie had an idea and it was spoken over, then one of her female peers would make sure, let's go back to hear what Julie said. So I think that we women can do that, and it doesn't always have to be with women peers. It can be with male colleagues. You just make sure that, look, I've got a good idea. I want to make sure it's heard at the table. Sometimes I notice I'm spoken over in meetings. So if you notice I'm spoken over in a meeting, or you notice that this idea hasn't been heard, can I ask you to interject and just direct people back to my idea again? Thank you. So I think that's a really cool tool. It's forming a coalition, and you can do this if you notice that that's happening to you. Visibility is a really powerful leadership tool. With visibility, people assume that if you're highly visible, you are successful. And so it's not vanity at all. I think we can sometimes see what happens on platforms like Instagram, and we see people with lots of followers and who perhaps aren't necessarily successful in business, although that is becoming less and less so, because we see there's actually, Instagram is a really powerful tool for those building their brand and businesses on Instagram now, and there is so much support and really good success stories for people doing that. But increasing your visibility, when you are seen, heard and valued by more people, and when you know how to convert that into messages that attract your key clients, or attract key customers, or if you're in the executive space and you're trying to build your career, if you know how to convert that into career opportunities, it's not vanity, it's just a tool, and it's a powerful tool. So no, visibility is not vanity, it's a powerful career tool. I think that having a growth mindset really helps when it comes to starting to build your business. I did not know how to do social media before I started. I was lousy like everyone else, and my platform of choice is LinkedIn. It's a platform that I joined in, I think, 2004 or 2006. I was an early adopter, but I was very poor at it. I just used it to promote events when I was working with the peak bodies, and that's what I did. So I learned pretty quickly that that is not how to gain traction on LinkedIn. That was not how to gain visibility, increase visibility, build a platform, create a movement. And so one of the things I did was I noticed that several of my male peers were doing things differently on LinkedIn than I was doing and having really good success. So I set up 3 interviews with 3 men to find out what they were doing on LinkedIn. It was really eye-opening. I sat down and they were very generous with me because the previous advice had been for me that all I needed to do was have lots of coffees and go to lots of networking events. And it's a really bad piece of networking advice, particularly for women. That advice does not necessarily work for women because we are time poor. We often have kids or extended family or aging parents to look after. That's not necessarily going to be the best advice. So I sat down with these 3 men, I interviewed them each, and they all had different approaches. And one of them gave me some fantastic tips on increasing my visibility on LinkedIn. Another one gave me some fantastic tips on being really time efficient and setting aside 20 minutes a week to do my hygiene on LinkedIn and making sure that the minimum effective dose was done. And another one was really good at teaching me how to leverage my network and my messaging. So I will ever be grateful to those three male peers who taught me those and very generously gave me those conversations that taught me those techniques. And I now use those techniques with my clients as well. But that was certainly contributed to my success and my LinkedIn Voice Award, which I am also grateful for as well. Okay, what's one habit that makes an invisible leader instantly credible? Okay, so you might, so no one promotes the worn out, exhausted, flustered executive who might be doing all the work at the back of the office, hiding in the back of the office. People promote the person who is more visible, who looks more confident. Our society confuses confidence with competence, visibility with success. And so it's really, we need to leverage that. We can rail against it, we can get cross with that, or we just go, okay, if that's the case, then I need to learn some of that. So I too can do that. So if you're an invisible leader and you've got a time poor invisible leader, then I think LinkedIn is incredibly powerful. And I just recommend my minimum effective dose. So the minimum effective dose is, I've got 2 or 3 tactics. One is post once every 30 days. Minimum effective dose. It's an algorithm thing because LinkedIn creates for the Sales Navigator or the Recruiter platform. There's a segment that's divided into people who post every 30 days or at least every 30 days. And recruiters are lazy like the rest of us. They like looking at the short list, not the long list. So I encourage my clients to post a minimum effective dose of once every 30 days. If you're nervous or new on LinkedIn, you don't need to be creating a viral post. Just think of creating a post that's going to boost your credibility, create a track record of topics that you should know. So post for the job you want, not the job you have. So post about the topics that a leader in that role should be commenting on or knowing about. Another tactic is commenting. Comment for the job you want, not the job you have. And one of the tools I teach my clients is to find five thought leaders in your sector or 5 highly visible leaders, and just once a week go in there. There's that once a week technique. Once a week, go in and comment thoughtfully, with purpose, with a thought leadership lens on their content. You don't need to worry about it going viral. You don't need to worry about whether it's popular. And LinkedIn recently rolled out a new visibility metric on comments. So that's becoming an increasingly powerful tactic. So there you go. I gave you 3 little tactics that your listeners might choose to use. No, it is never too early. And I really love that Actually, I'll start that again. It is never too early and it is never too late. I really love that some young marketers have come into the market and really revolutionized platforms like LinkedIn. They've shown us how to leverage algorithms and how to understand copywriting techniques, what works. They try different tactics and they bring a marketing lens and really good tactics. They understand human emotion. And so they teach us a lot about how to build a brand on LinkedIn. I'm all for young marketers teaching us what we can use. And so that opens the door for young professionals to really step in at any stage and use those techniques. But also, it's never too late. I know several older women, more mature women towards the back end of their career who are doing amazing things leveraging LinkedIn, being really diligent, consistent with their brand building, their posting, their commenting, and generous in their approach. And that they're building platforms and portfolio careers with boards and consulting, and they're doing that really effectively via LinkedIn. So no, it is never too old and never too late. And from that LinkedIn, then they're getting speaking opportunities, consulting opportunities. They are building a great platform. So the most common mistakes I see on LinkedIn in particular would be we're not consistent. So consistency really trumps frequency. So consistency is where you consistently post. Minimum effective dose perhaps is once every 30 days. I think that's a minimum. I'd like to, if you're an executive, I'd like to see you doing slightly more than that, but minimum effective dose. So that consistency is really important, and that's not just consistency in terms of frequency. It could be time of day. So you establish a time that you regularly post. So for me, that's a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I consistently post at those times, just so that my followers know when to expect my content. My followers know when to look out for it. So that's something that I see is sort of missing, and people might post it, had an idea and posted at 10 p.m. at night. So that doesn't work. Another mistake would be we rely on, I guess, tropes of, being overly gracious, and that's not the right word, but overly humble when we announce an award or something like that. And in award season, we just see our feed is full of, I am delighted to announce I won this award. And I truly am, it's amazing. There are so many awards and so many women winning awards. It's fantastic. I want to celebrate it. But tell us what you won the award for. Tell us what are the things you learned about the award process or the project that was nominated for the award. Give us an insight into who you are. Because if you're not doing that, that's a missed opportunity. An award on its own sake is not very useful, but tell us what's the value. Share with us again, what was build your brand on substance. Tell us what the learning or the opportunity or the value or, the substance of why you won the award. And that will help you with future opportunities more effectively than just an award announcement. Gosh, one of my biggest pieces of advice is lead like yourself, not like a mini version of a man. Because I think our role models on television, in the movies, in our workplaces are that men are leaders. And I remember reading some research not that long ago by a fast-moving consumer goods company, actually. And they did some research and they found that 77% of men believe that a man is the best person to lead in a high-stakes situation. And 55% of women also believe the same. So we tend to believe that men are the best people to lead. And so I think that reinforces the male role model or the male style of leadership as being the only style of leadership. Where I find that really is a trap for women, and women perform better when they feel like they can be more of themselves, when they can bring their well-rounded self to the table and not feel like they're fitting a caricature or a narrow stereotype. Lead like yourself, not like a mini version of a male leader you saw in a movie. So that would be a key piece of advice I'd give to my female clients and to your listeners. When you are early in your career, you want to say yes to every opportunity. And I actually think that's a really wise thing to do. You know, say yes. Say yes to opportunities that stretch you. Say yes to opportunities that maybe scare you a little bit, because that's when you're going to grow. But at a certain point, maybe your plate is full, maybe you've got extra responsibilities, and we do need to be discerning and learn the difference between what is going to be good for our careers and what is just going to be not a time waster, but that work that is not necessarily recognised or non-promotable. So often women in particular get caught up in doing the work that's expected but not promotable. And that's perhaps where we can learn to have better boundaries and learn to say no, or learn to batch and delegate better. So that is definitely the sort of work we should be doing. So let me give you an example. Sheryl Sandberg, formerly of, she wrote Lean In, gave a great TED Talk, formerly Facebook. She talks about, I remember in an article in the New York Times, she talks about doing that work and the work that's expected. If a woman doesn't do that work, she is denigrated or perhaps criticised a little bit. So she suggests that, for example, if you are caught up being asked to mentor lots of people, and often women, female leaders are asked to mentor lots of people, get systematic about it. Put people in a group. Suggest, okay, yes, I'd love to mentor you. I have a group mentoring session once a month, and you just regularly organise that for people who ask you for mentoring. If you're constantly being asked for coffees, get systematic about it. Have 2 or 3 coffee opportunities that you have available in your calendar, and once they're full, they're full. And you maybe have an appointment setting software, or you have your EA manage you. And junior executives can learn from what these senior women are doing. I think that's really, really smart. And I love the fact that perhaps junior executives can do this too, because they're not going to get caught up in the trap of doing too much of that non-promotable work. Yes, it's important work, that's supporting others and emotionally supporting others. Yes, it's really important work, but sometimes it's not recognised. So let's be smart about it. One of the books that really changed my life and career, I guess, was a book by Adam Grant. He's one of my favourite authors. He's written multiple books. One's called Originals, but I think my favourite book by him was The Art and Science of Reciprocity, Give and Take. That's the title, Give and Take by Adam Grant. And it's really about generosity, and it's suggesting that we don't have to be selfish in our careers. We can give, we can be generous. And he had multiple case studies of people who were incredibly generous, and it helped them in their careers. So I really love that book, highly recommend. I come from the professional association sector, if you might remember from my introduction, and that's very much being in service, so that's part of my DNA. And as a coach, I'm very much into giving and supporting others. So I really love that book because it helped me, I guess, not put boundaries around it, but it helped me understand the science and the art of doing it well without wearing myself out. Another book that was really important for this last phase of my career was Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. I just loved it. It was such a powerful book, such great quotable quotes and such good insights. Like, for example, work is not school, because I think sometimes we women go to work and treat it like it's school. It's like, I got to get good grades or I've got to do really good work, but that's not necessary. Then we're disappointed because that's not what's promoted. We also need to sell ourselves and the value of our work, and we need to learn how to do that, and that's what gets promoted. So that would be a great book. If you don't know anything about women in leadership, perhaps read Lean In. But more recently, Caddy Kay and Claire Shipman have written 2 books which I just love. One is called The Confidence Code, and then their next book, which I've read because it was fantastic research and I love their work, is called The Power Code. So the first book is unpacking confidence and gender differences around confidence. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And this last book was understanding power and understanding gender differences and power, and how men and women tackle power differently and how we align with different styles of power differently. So I certainly have taken a lot of their work and reflected on it and digested it and used that in some of my own work and my own writing. So special thanks to those authors who really have, I highly recommend them, and they have really shaped my career and my coaching. So Invisible to Invincible in 90 days. So I have developed a course that takes the content of my book, Invisible to Invincible, a self-promotion handbook for executive women. And so I decided that some people love reading books and some people like more practical and tactical approaches, like doing courses. They will benefit more from doing the coursework, reading the books, watching the videos, and then taking what they learn and applying it to their own career. So that's why I developed the course. It's a 12-week, 8-module course, and I take people through from feeling like they're a workhorse, invisible workhorse, doing all the work conscientiously, hidden up the back of the office. So I take people from being the workhorse and feeling like they're doing all the work up the back of the office and feeling underappreciated, they're unpromoted, and they're in line for burnout. And I take people from feeling that way to perhaps feeling far more sought after, highly sought after for their expertise, for their insights, for their wisdom, for their leadership style, for their brand, for being a woman, because right now the organisation needs a woman, and after all, men have been promoted for being men for the last 200 years. Maybe it's time, to step into a role just because you are a woman, and that's what the organisation needs right now. So I take them through a whole process: the workhorse, the player, the enabler, the fixer, solving complex problems, but always buried in the business, doing that, hitting their head against that glass ceiling because they're smart operations strategy, emotional intelligence, but that doesn't necessarily get them those promotable opportunities. So I take them through the whole gamut, right up through to being the CEO of their own life, career and leadership journey. So that's the Invisible to Invincible over 90 days, a 12-week, 8-module online course. And it supports the coaching program. So 3 leadership myths that perhaps typically hold women back are: one, that we need to work hard.